Hello, this is Anya from swiftbanners.com. Today I am going to show you how to get the banner on the left in Google Web Designer. This is the file on the right. So the banner on the left was pre-designed in Photoshop, and I am going to use these transparent PNG files which were also pre-designed in Photoshop. The final design will have some nice features like replay button with an interesting animation, as you can see on the right. A carousel gallery showing featured products together with navigation, and click to shop button effect together with an animated free delivery text. You can see the final result here on the right. And one more time the whole banner from the beginning. So let's get started in Google Web Designer. Create a new file, type in your file name. My environment is DoubleClick. Choose the right dimensions and click OK. First thing we need to create is the background. From my second screen I will copy the color name and I will paste it into this field. That's right. Now I will create the background rectangle. On the right, in position and size fields, we need 0 and 0 values. And just below, type in the dimensions of our banner. Yes, it looks cool. And now you need to name the layer as background. Next thing I will do is importing the required assets to the library. I will just drag them from my second screen and drop them to the library section. It should be the lower box in the library section. That's right. Once all the files are there, we can drag the first one onto our design. This will be the header. We check transform and control and align to container. We align it to the center and move it up a bit with shift and arrow keys. I will just look up my pre-designed banner so that I have something to refer to during the design. And I will rename the layer to sail so that I can identify it easily later on. Next part of my design are the animated lines. So they will be white, and their size will be 250 and 2 pixels. Let me align it to the center and rename the layer to up. Then I duplicate the line and rename the layer to down, as it will be at the bottom. Okay, now I create the rest of the lines. You don't have to be super accurate, as their dimensions and position can be changed at any moment in the properties section, and this line should be 2 pixels wide and 20 pixels high. I change the layer's name to 1. I copy and paste this line and move it to the correct position by pressing shift and arrow keys. And I rename the layer to 2. I will simply repeat this process with the rest of the lines that are required. So you can follow on the screen to see what is going on. Rename the layer and another line. This will be the 4th one. Yeah. Okay. So I will now move half of these lines to the bottom just a bit, as I think I will need a bit more space between them. There will be some more text. Then I continue with the lines. This one should be 1 pixel high and 50 pixels wide. I type in the dimensions in the position and size section. Yes, 50 pixels wide, 1 pixel high. And I move it to the correct place. And I rename the layer to 5. The clearer the layers are named, the easier it will be for you to identify them. And now the last line, I duplicate it. I move it to the right with Shift and arrow keys. And I rename the layer to 6. It's time for some detailing. We need the circles. So corner rounding should be set to 45 pixels. Then we draw a rectangle which will turn into a circle if your corner rounding is set correctly. As you can see, it is. Width and height should be 5 and 5 pixels. When you have this little circle, you place it at the end of the upper line, and you need to rename the layer. I will just rename it to, let's say, left dot. Then you copy the circle and place it at the end of the second upper line, and I will also rename the layer to right dot. Next thing we are going to do is placing the text on the banner. So we need a text field at the top. And in my case, the text will be don't miss these deals. It's not visible now, but I will adjust the color later on. I change the font to Oswald. And in a moment I will change the color to white. Yep. And let's change the size to 12 pixels and change the placement of the text on our banner. Yeah, it looks better now. I adjust it to the center. Now time for the next text. I will start off with placing the text field first. I will change the font color to white, and I will align the text to the center. Let's type in the text now. In my case, it's going to feature discounts of some exemplary products. Yeah, okay, I think 4 lines will be enough. I changed the font to Oswald. I set the text size to 30 pixels. No, 48. No, it's too big. Let's set it to 30. And I move the text down a bit. Yeah, it looks cool now. So I think it will look better if we move these lines down a bit so that we gain a bit more space. Yeah. Next thing to do is creating the background for our carousel gallery. So what I need to do is to create a new rectangle. I need to change the corner rounding setting back to 0 pixels. Okay, background is ready, and I rename the layer to white background, let's say. Gallery will be 250 pixels wide and 90 pixels high. I align it to the center and move it up a bit. Yeah. Now go to component section, pick carousel gallery and drag it onto your banner. In properties, change the size to 300 pixels wide and 80 pixels high. And align it to the center. Layer name should be gallery. Now go to properties and in carousel gallery click on images. From my second screen I will drag and drop some assets that I will use later on. And from components drag and drop gallery navigation. Adjust its size, place it just under the picture gallery, like I'm doing right now. Yeah, align it to the center, move it up a bit, and let's rename the layer to navigation. Next, go to properties, gallery navigation, and enter the ID of the gallery this component will navigate. Let's change the highlight color to pink. I'm just pasting in the name of the color. Let's go to preview and see how it looks like. Yeah, it looks okay for now. Okay, so now let's create a pink border at the bottom of our banner. Yes, that's the color. It will be a background for our click to shop button. Yep. So I will rename the layer to pink. And once this border is ready, we need to create a background for our click to shop text, as you can see on the right. So I think white will look cool, so I'm creating a white rectangle there. I will align it to the center. And now let's drag and drop this click to shop text onto our banner. Let's align it. And now you need to rename the layers for both the button and the text. So it will be white button and let's say click. Now select both of the assets, go to edit, create group, and name the group button group, let's say. And in the layers section, we also need to type in the group name, button. Okay, now I will drag and drop this free delivery picture from the library. This picture will be later animated, so let's keep it outside of the banner. Rename the layer. And it also needs to be in a group, so go to edit, create group, type in the name, and rename the layer. Which will be free delivery in my case. Okay, now we need to prepare our assets for the animation. Every one of these elements will start from a certain point. So let's say this one, Black Friday sale, I will increase its size twice. It will be invisible at first and will be turned around by 360 degrees. So to do it in properties section, enter 2 and 2 for X and Y, 360 for Z, and for opacity we need 0. Make sure you use exactly the same fields where I entered these values. Up and down lines will start from the center of the banner, from the very same place. So we move them so that they are on top of each other. 1, 2, 3, and 4 layers will be invisible at first. So I select all 4 of them, and on the right I change their opacity to 0. 5 and 6 layers will enter the scene from left and right. So I move both of them outside of the banner. Our dots will be invisible at first, so we need to change their opacity to 0 as well. Don't miss these deals, will first be really small and invisible, so I need to change X and Y to 0 for this layer, and I change opacity to 0 as well. It will later increase its size. Our main text will be enlarged and invisible at first, so I change X and Y to 2 and opacity to 0. Gallery and the navigation will be invisible at first as well, so they all need changing the opacity to 0. Okay. The pink border will ride into the banner from the bottom, so it needs to be moved below the banner. Up and down lines, let me select them. They will have their size decreased to 0 and opacity set to 0 at first as well. Then they will stretch to both sides. Okay. And 0. Good. Now we will take care of the animation. Let's start from layers 1, 2, 3, 4. For these layers, we need keyframes at 3 seconds, and 3.5 seconds. Then we select all last keyframes, and we change the opacity of all 4 layers to 1. It will cause them to appear on the banner. Up and down lines will stretch to both sides. For both of them, we need to create keyframes on 0.5 seconds. So we select both of them. For X and Y, we type 1. And we also need to set the opacity to 1. These lines will also need to move across the banners, so we add keyframes and 3.5 seconds. On these keyframes, we move the lines to the top and to the bottom of our banner, as I'm doing right now. But we need these lines to appear a bit earlier, so we move both keyframes to 3 seconds, and we change easing to ease for all the keyframes one by one. Okay. Let's check the preview now. Okay, it looks fine. So now I will animate the next elements, that is lines 5 and 6, which will enter the scene from left and right. So I will create keyframes for both of the layers and 3 seconds and 3.5 seconds. Okay. So I move the lines to the right and to the left at the last keyframe, so they show up on the banner, and I change easing to ease for the last keyframes, sorry, to ease in, easing to ease in for both of the last keyframes. Now I'm going to animate the left and right dot. So at 3.5 and 4 seconds, I'm going to insert 2 keyframes, and for both of the layers I will change their opacity to 1. Okay. let's now animate Don't Miss This Deal. So I will also create keyframes at 3.5 and 4 seconds. And at 4 seconds we change the text size on the right back to 1 and opacity also to 1. And on the last keyframe we change easing to ease. Okay. Now I'm going to animate the 70% off text, which will appear in the center of the banner. I create keyframes at 4 and 4.5 seconds. And at 4.5 seconds I change the size back to 1 and opacity to 1. Let's look up the preview. Yeah, all looks fine now. So now I will work on the sale header. I create a keyframe and 0.5 seconds, and I change the size to 1 and 1 in the properties section. I will also change the Z property to 0, so the button rotates nicely into the banner, and opacity needs to be set to 1. Okay, let's check out the preview. Yes, everything works correctly. There is nice rotation. Next element I will work on is the click to shop button. I go to edit the whole group. I copy the white button layer and I will change its name to black button. And I will change the color to black. So now I will create keyframes at 1 second, 1.5 seconds, and 2 seconds. Okay. And at the first keyframe I move the black button part to the left so it's minimized. And I change the opacity to 0. Same for 0 seconds keyframe. Yes, opacity set to 0. And 0 as well. For 1.5 seconds keyframe, I change the opacity to 1. For 2 seconds keyframe, I change the opacity to 1 as well. And I also minimize the layer by squeezing it to the right. Then I create another keyframe, just here, and I change the opacity to 1. And yet another keyframe here. I stretch the layer to the left so it appears full-sized, and I change the opacity to 1. Then yet another keyframe just before the 2 seconds mark, and opacity changed to 1. And now you can check how the animation is going to look like, and this is exactly the effect I wanted. Okay, now we need to add some labels, events, here, here and here. I will now add some labels. The first one is going to be called ini for initiation. Then I create another label here. I will call it mouse over. Okay. Then another label here just after the second event. It will be called mouse out. Now you need to double click the first event, choose timeline, pause button group, click OK. Then double click on the second event, pick timeline, pause button group, OK. And for the last event timeline, go to and pause button group, OK. Go to div to check out our main banner. And from components, drag and drop tab area. I will adjust the size so it fits nicely over the button, and I change the layer name to tab area 1. I add an event, pick mouse, mouse over, timeline, go to and play, button, and set the label to mouse over. Then I add another event, mouse, mouse out, go to and play, button, and I change the label to mouse out. Okay, let's check out the preview. Okay, there appears to be some glitch in the button. We will try to fix it. From experience, I know it's usually enough to go back to the original group and move around these keyframes a bit. First a bit to the right. Okay, it looks like it has helped. But once I move these two back to their original position, it still works as intended. Not sure why, but it looks like a glitch in Google Web Designer. Okay, so let me explain a bit how these keyframes work. These two need to be next to each other, first with opacity 0 and second with opacity set to 1. As you can see on the right. So the animation of the black button appearing started right away. These two keyframes are exactly the same. And that's because with our mouse out label above the keyframe at 1.6 seconds, the animation sometimes stops a bit squeezed to the right, like this. And these last two keyframes, they have opacity set to 1 and 0 for the last one. So the whole thing disappears completely in a blink of an eye. Let's check out the preview now. Yeah, it looks cool so far. So let's get started with animating the button and pink layers. Let's move the layers down under the white background layer. The button should have opacity set to 0. For the pink layer, I will now create keyframes at 4.5 and 5 seconds. And at 5 seconds, you need to move the pink border up so it appears on our banner, and change easing to ease. For the button layer, we need keyframes at 4.5 and 5 seconds. And at 5 seconds, set opacity to 1. Just after the pink border and the button appearing on the banner, the white background, gallery and navigation will also become visible. So we need keyframes for all of them at 5 and 5.5 seconds. And we set opacity to 1 on the last keyframes, so the layers become visible. I pick all of them and I set opacity to 1. So you can see now how it's going to look like. And let's check out the preview. Yep, the gallery appears nicely on our banner. Click to shop works fine. So now we need to animate the free delivery text. So we need to right click on the picture, go to edit, and you can see it's not visible because the background is white and the picture is white, but believe me, it's there. So I will create keyframes at 0.5 second and 4 seconds. And at 4 seconds keyframe, we move the item way to the right, outside of the banner. Then we add 2 events, just before the 0.5 seconds mark and at 4 seconds. For the first event, I add a label. I will call call it mouse over 2. Okay, I think I need to move it to the right a bit. And another label here, just under the first event. It will be called ini2 for initiation. So now I click on the first event, pick timeline, pause, delivery. Okay. And for the last event, pick timeline, play, delivery. Okay. Let's check out the main banner. As you can see, this text could be moved a bit to the right, but let's leave it for now. I will now add more events to the tab area. First one will be mouse, mouse over, timeline, go to and play, free delivery, label should be mouse over 2. Let's check out the preview. Okay, it looks fine, but as you can see, it could be moved right a bit. So let's click on this one, go to edit, and move the text a bit more to the right on the last keyframe. It should be fine now. Go to our main banner, check out the preview to see if that helped. Yeah, okay, it's now way out of the banner. So next thing we need is the replay button. That's going to be our last asset, I think. We drag and drop it from the library. It's a bit too big, but we'll correct it. I align it to the right corner of the banner and I'll adjust the size now. Okay, it's a bit too small. Yeah, that should be fine. I align the position a bit and let's change the layer name to replay. Okay, I need to add another tab area just on top of the replay button, and obviously we need to adjust its size. That should be fine. And I changed the name of the layer to tab area 2. And last thing we need to do is to add a label at 0 seconds. We change its name to animation start. And we add an event to tab area 2. So pick, no, not mouse, tab area, touch click, timeline, go to and play, page 1, and animation start. Let's check out the preview. Okay, this is the whole animation from the beginning. Free delivery works fine. And the replay button, yes, it works correctly. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more tutorials, and in the comment section let me know if there are any tutorials you'd like to see in the future. Thank you.